So, if a group of frat boys were to kill 2 students just to cover up the earlier killing of an additional 2 students, what does this say about their psychological state as well as their potential danger to society? This shows an extreme moral disengagement. They would have to suppress or override natural guilt, empathy, and conscience. This suggests a profound disconnection from normal human emotional responses. Also, cold rationalization. Covering up a crime by committing more crime is calculated, not impulsive. It suggests they are capable of making strategic decisions that disregard human life. It's a display of great depravity and lack of empathy. Killing to conceal wrongdoing reflects that other people are being treated as disposable obstacles, not as human beings. What poses a threat to society is the escalating violence. If killing once leads to killing again in order to maintain secrecy, it demonstrates a dangerous feedback loop. Violence is a problem-solving method. High risk of repeated offenses as well. People who normalize killing as a solution are statistically more likely to repeat violent acts under pressure. Also, the tendency for groupthink and diffusion of responsibility. In a group setting, like a fraternity, individuals may feel less personally accountable. This can lower inhibitions and cause people who normally would not kill to kill. This behavior would indicate psychopathic traits. They also pose an immediate and ongoing danger to society, not just from violent capability, but from willingness to escalate and destroy anyone who threatens them. Such a group would not just be dangerous, they'd represent the highest tier of danger. They've shown the capacity of premeditated, repeated, self-preserving violence, which places them in the same psychological category as organized criminals and serial offending killers. When crime happens within a tightly bonded group like a fraternity, the psychology of the group can amplify depravity in several ways. Loyalty over morality. Fraternities often instill a brotherhood mentality, where loyalty to the group overrides external ethics. This can make members feel obligated to protect one another, even in the face of serious wrongdoing. Groupthink. In a group, dissenting voices are silenced. Members convince themselves that what they're doing is justified because everyone else is in on it. The collective makes the act feel less personally horrifying. The diffusion of responsibility. If 5 people share responsibility, each may feel only 20% guilty. This makes extreme actions, like murder, easier to rationalize for them. The power dynamics. Fraternities often have hierarchies. Lower status members may feel pressured to obey leaders, even if they're ordered to do something criminal. This group already would be extremely dangerous, but let's add in the factor of them intimidating other students into helping. This would make it far more sinister. It reveals domination and coercion. Forcing outsiders to participate shows they weren't just trying to avoid blame. They were asserting power over others. This is sadistic as well as strategic. Spreading complicity. By intimidating others into helping, they trap those students in silence. This is a mafia-style tactic, ensuring witnesses are compromised. Shows a pattern of control. It indicates they are not only violent, but also manipulative and authoritarian. They are expanding the crime beyond the original murders into a web of corruption. If they are willing to threaten or coerce students who didn't volunteer, it shows society at large is in danger, not just specific victims. Anyone who crosses them could potentially become a target. This shows that they are not just violent, but organized. Killing, covering up, and enlisting others shows planning and hierarchy. They lack empathy and conscience at a systematic level. Normal human beings would collapse under the guilt or horror. These individuals doubled down. They are societal predators. Their behavior mirrors organized criminal groups that thrive on intimidation, control, and violence. They present a contagion effect. By intimidating others, they risk corrupting or traumatizing additional students, spreading fear and silence across the wider community. If this scenario is accurate, these aren't just reckless frat boys. They are functioning as a violent, cult-like criminal organization. They would be among the most dangerous types of offenders in society because they normalize violence as a means of self-preservation and extend that violence into manipulation and coercion of others. Let's take this a step further, a layer deeper, and let's focus on the outsiders. Okay, the students that were intimidated or the bystanders, and how being forced into helping would affect them, as well as what it reveals about the perpetrators. The immediate psychological impact on the intimidated students: terror and shock. Being threatened by peers, especially peers in a powerful frat group, would trigger fight, flight, and freeze responses. Most would freeze and comply to avoid becoming the next target. Cognitive dissonance. They'd feel trapped between their moral compass and their survival instinct. This is wrong, people are dead, and if I don't help, I could be dead. The loss of agency. Being coerced into a crime strips them of autonomy, creating a sense of helplessness and degradation. They could do short-term coping strategies. Obedience under duress. Most intimidated students would do what they're told, focusing on just getting through it alive. Denial and numbing. Some may emotionally detach in the moment, also going robotic to block out the horror. Fragmented memory. Trauma can lead to spotty or altered memories of the event, making them unreliable witnesses later, and protecting the perpetrators indirectly. Long-term psychological effects. Severe trauma, flashbacks, nightmares, hypervigilance, being forced to handle corpses or blood, knowing murderers are watching them, would etch itself into their psyche. Guilt and shame. Even though they were coerced, many would carry lifelong guilt for helping the killers. Survivors often overblame themselves. Silence through fear. They may never speak up, due to fear of retaliation, fear of being implicated, or sheer psychological paralysis. Fragmented identity. Some could experience disassociation, struggling to reconcile who they were before versus who they became after coercion. What this reveals about the perpetrators: their predatory opportunism. They not only killed, but ensured their survival by compromising others. That's not impulsive, it's predatory strategy. Psychological warfare. By making others complicit, they spread fear and silence across the community. This turns the frat into a power structure akin to organized crime. Sadism or dominance drive. Forcing innocence into such an act isn't necessary for cover-up. It's an exercise of power that suggests they derive gratification from subjugation, not just survival. The ripple effect on the wider community. A culture of silence. Other students may sense something happened but stay quiet, fearing reprisal or social fallout. Distrust in the institutions. If word spreads that witnesses were silenced or forced, students may stop trusting campus authorities or law enforcement to protect them. The fraternity as a shadow power. The frat would operate almost like a mini mafia on campus, with fear as its currency. Bottom line is, if this truly is the scenario of what happened, then for the intimidated students, this is psychological soul murder. They were stripped of agency, forced into complicity, and left with trauma that may haunt them for the rest of their lives. For the perpetrators, it shows they are not just killers, but social dominators who weaponize fear and guilt to control others. That makes them exponentially more dangerous, not just for what they did, but for how they bent others into silence. In some of the audio that I'm still dissecting, I swear I hear them taunting one of the victims, right? So let's add that to the scenario of this, conversation that we're having. That shows obvious sadism and domination, but taunting indicates the attackers derive psychological reward from another's fear and suffering. It's active cruelty, not merely instrumental violence. It's dehumanization. Verbal abuse reduces the victim to an object, making it easier for attackers to kill without remorse. Performance and signaling. When done publicly or in front of peers, taunting serves to demonstrate power and intimidate others. It's a show of control. If it's repeated taunting, it can turn a murder into a ritualized act within the group, strengthening group identity around violence. If the University Greek Life Council helped cover it up, what does this imply? Institutional complicity. This moves the problem from a small group to systematic corruption. It indicates leaders prioritized reputation or financial brand interests over justice and student safety. The breach of duty and trust. A university has ethical and legal obligations to protect students and cooperate with law enforcement. Helping cover up would be a profound betrayal of that duty. The criminal exposure. Anyone who knowingly obstructs an investigation, destroys evidence, or coerces witnesses can face criminal charges. The university itself could face civil liability and criminal investigation. A culture of impunity. Institutional cover-up signals to perpetrators that consequences can be avoided, encouraging further abuse and corruption. Students and families lose trust in campus governance. Reporting of other crimes will fall, and the overall safety climate deteriorates. Practical consequences: lawsuits, federal investigations, resignations, firings, and long-term reputational and financial damage are common outcomes. And I want to show how the slightest bit of detail, the slightest change of detail, can take an already crazy-ass scenario and take it into an even more powerfully chilling scenario. Let's quickly restate all of what I just said, and let's just add to the fact, let's say that they accidentally killed Ethan and Xana first, okay? And their intended target was Maddie or Kaylee, like they try to make us believe that one of them were the intended targets, okay? That puts a period of waiting after the accidental or unintended deaths. So let's see what that reveals about the whole scenario. Waiting calmly after causing unplanned deaths shows they do not treat human life as having any sort of value. It's one thing to panic and flee after an unintentional killing. It's a totally another thing to continue with premeditated murder. This indicates a deep moral rupture. The unplanned killings didn't shock them into stopping. They adapted emotionally and procedurally, which implies very fast desensitizing from the situation. That's consistent with either a high baseline of callousness or an ability to detach quickly, i.e., disassociation or compartmentalization. The decision to wait and then carry out the intended killing converts an earlier accident into part of a continuous criminal enterprise. The waiting period is itself evidence of deliberation. They had time to reflect and instead chose to proceed. If the original intent was to kill people for some purpose, whether it's revenge, silence, reputation, whatever, and the accidental deaths were just collateral, it demonstrates that killers treat people as obstacles to be removed instead of human beings. Groupthink and diffusion of responsibility makes such a callous pause possible. Sitting and waiting after watching people die can indicate that part of the perpetrator's gratification comes from having power over life and death. They aren't merely hiding a mistake, they are asserting control. This creates a big problem for the community, because people who can calmly accept witnessing deaths and carry on are likely to be repeat threats. They've shortened the moral distance to violence. And the institutional alarm sign, like if such behavior occurs within a subculture like a fraternity and is tolerated, it signals severe institutional failure and risk of future harm to the community. That's why I think the freaking story that I just put out about the guy in the coma is crazy, because I literally wrote everything that I just wrote you guys or read to you guys the other day, and like it literally coincides with this. Like, it's proof that all of this is true, that like there is extreme institutional failure. The bottom line is like sitting and waiting after accidentally killing 2 people, then killing the intended victim, transforms the entire event from a chaotic accident into an act of showing cold deliberation, deep moral disengagement, likely psychopathic features, and a calculated willingness to risk detection to achieve their ends. That behavior marks them as extremely dangerous, not just violent bystanders, but methodical perpetrators willing to systemize killing. At the very end of my first video, there's a little clip of some audio, and in that audio, I swear I hear boys saying, mockingly saying, "Help me," over one of the girls is, "Real help me." We're going to look at that. So, intentionally imitating a victim's cry to drown out a real plea isn't panic. It's tactical smoke and mirrors. That shows forethought, or at the very least, very rapid, opportunistic thinking. They use a human sound, a distress one nonetheless, as a tool to manipulate others' perception. That indicates they see people and emotional signals as instruments to be exploited. Doing this while others are actually dying implies the perpetrators are emotionally numb or disassociated. They can perform caring behavior while actually feeling none of the caring. And them saying, "No, no, 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 we're here to help you." The tactic is meant to confuse bystanders and delay intervention. It's a sign the perpetrators understood how witnesses react and purposefully manipulated that reflex. It's also very performative, signaling to any onlookers that they're responders, not attackers, which reduces the chance someone will intervene or call authorities. It's weaponized empathy and fake helping. Phrasing meant to comfort while you betray is one of the cruelest manipulations. It uses trust as a weapon. This is classic manipulative behavior. Gain trust with language and then exploit it. It's intentional, planned, and strategically cruel. If the speaker deliberately comforts while betraying, That can indicate they derive psychological gratification from the victim's confusion, fear, and helplessness. Pure psychopathic traits. It's insanely psychopathic. If several people mimic help me or play rescuers, it suggests planning and role assignment, not just random panic. That's organizational, not impulsive. When multiple members participate, it signals shared norms that condone lying and betrayal to protect the group. That makes remediation and reform more difficult. The act trains the group in plausible deniability and how to manipulate observers. That's a very dangerous skill set to have. The tactic is designed to confuse bystanders and authorities. Prosecutors will want to isolate witnesses quickly and use forensic evidence to cut through intentional misinformation. The victim impact of such traumatic betrayal like that: complex PTSD, moral injury. Survivors often suffer identity-level harm, difficulty trusting, pervasive shame, intrusive memories of the deception. And as far as victims or witnesses who later learned of the deception may feel self-blame for trusting or being fooled, making recovery harder. A lot of this makes me think of Dylan, okay? Based off of Dylan saying that she heard somebody say, "I'm here to help you," she clearly was around at 1:15 and heard the boys tell Xana, no, we're here to help you. Therefore, she did hear a lot of this deception and this extreme, just manipulative betrayal. So what if she really is suffering from fractured memories of it because A, she was intoxicated, and B, they did all these tactics to purposefully manipulate the entire situation? I do think maybe we should give Dylan a little more slack, because I do kind of feel like that this fits her very perfectly. As far as Bethany goes, yeah, she's been extremely silent, but I do feel, and don't take this as victim blaming, but I do feel that the boys, David Loach, coaxed his way in through the two surviving roommates. Think about it. They were the freshmen of college. The other girls that all died, they were seniors and juniors. They coaxed their way in there. They did it using the freshman girls. And I feel like that's the part that they play. You know what I mean? I don't think that they purposefully set them up or anything, but I do feel that they allowed the boys in, and maybe they did know of some sort of plan to rough them up. But I do think the girls left at some point. I think after the Xana attack, they left for a while. And I don't know if I believe the whole Kaylee's room thing at 2:30 or 3:30 or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't believe that. And I don't believe Bethany took the dog out at 3:30 either, because we don't hear that. We don't hear Maddie asking or calling for the dog like she lost him. So if anything, I feel we have been told more lies from Bethany than we have Dylan. Dylan's may seem improbable or unbelievable, but it's because she herself is trying to grapple with what she actually heard. You know what I mean? So, and now that I think about it like that, that's kind of maybe how I would react, because I would be telling everything that I knew. It wouldn't make sense maybe if it didn't make sense to me, but I would just be trying to give as much information as I could. Bethany, however, is so tight-lipped, and wasn't she just rewarded the Sigma Chi sweetheart or whatever? I'm pretty sure that. Let me try to get a picture of that or something, but I'm pretty sure Sigma Chi just named her as their sweetheart, like they did with Maisie Chapin. So I think Bethany needs to be looked at way more than Dylan does.